everybody. Let me just kind of, there we go. Hopefully that's not too loud. I should turn it down a little bit more just in case. Guess it kind of doesn't matter since I'm going to be, like, pretty much talking non-stop anyways. But I always kind of like to have, like, a little bit of, like, some, what is it, copyright-free background music. Oh, I have a puppy here. There he is. He's just chilling, hanging out with me. He's all excited because he knows he's gonna get a snack. Oh, there you go, buddy. You're a good boy. You're a good boy. Okay. Alright. He's all set. So I don't think there's anybody in here yet, but that's okay. Looks like Scorpigeist literally just walked in here. Good to see you, man. Glad to have you. It's been a while. Yeah, it has been a little bit. Obviously I can't stream Skyrim because it's a big mess, but I have plans to start recording videos for it instead. So I mean, you know, people who want to see Skyrim content, I will be making videos of that and putting those out there. But I can't stream it because it looks like garbage, you know, so I don't want to do that. But I figured I would do a stream to just kind of hang out, and I thought maybe what I would kind of do is kind of go in between, you know, doing like some Skyrim videos here and there, and maybe doing some chill streams where I just kind of hang out every once in a while. I'll also say that this last week I was kind of busy, so like I know that, you know, I had some people who were wondering if I was like, oh no, like, you know, he's not streaming Skyrim, so maybe I was so, like, you know, beaten up about that I completely decided to stop streaming. That's not the case. I was pretty busy this last week, and also on the weekend I was pretty busy too. And I did actually, no joke, I was actually planning to stream yesterday, and then I got sick. So I woke up yesterday sick, and I'm still a little sick today, but it's not as bad as it was yesterday. Apparently YouTube is telling me that my stream is doing terrible, but whatever, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Let me check this real quick. Oh, that's not supposed to be like that. Why is it like that? What the hell? I've never said it that way before. I have no idea why that happened. Okay, well, whatever, screw it. I'm so annoyed with, like, streaming lately. Like, I mean, I still am streaming and doing things like that, but the issues that I've been having with streaming have been so unbelievably frustrating that I just, like, I feel so defeated on it, and I kind of just don't really want to give a shit. For some reason that I can't possibly begin to understand, because I've never ever in my entire life ever set my stream up this way. My stream is supposed to have a very specific bitrate, which I've always set it that way, and somehow, in some way that I cannot fathom, because I'm looking at the settings right now, the bitrate downshifted some insane number that I've never, like, seen before. I would have literally never have put this number in there, ever. And the thing is that, like, literally if I wanted to change it, I would have to end the stream. So I'm just gonna say, screw it. Like, it's fine. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm too out of it to really give a shit, so whatever. Figured you were busy with other stuff. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. Yeah, it's just been, it's been kind of difficult because, obviously, I've been having issues with streaming, and on top of that, I was really busy this last week, and yesterday I was sick, and then today I'm, like, kind of out of it. But I did go to the post office today, and I did get some fan mail. And I know who sent it because they contacted me to let me know that they were sending me some fan mail. And luckily, I'm also looking at the stream from the current video setup, and I'm just checking it real quick. Even though YouTube is yelling and screaming at me, hey, you're streaming at a practically impossible bit rate, so everything should be terrible. And it's like, okay, YouTube, but like, I'm looking at the stream and it seems fine, so screw you. Whatever, I don't care. I'm too tired to care today. But yeah, I went down to the mail and I picked up a package that was sent to me by Bo Falcon, and he contacted me to let me know that he had sent me a Christmas fan package. So I'm very excited to open that. I have it over here on the side, so I'll be opening that up in a little while. But yeah, I'm just kind of tired today. Like I said, I was sick yesterday, and then I slept in really late because I wasn't feeling well, and I feel a little bit better today, but I'm still kind of like mentally not 100% here. And then I was like, okay, well, I said I was going to go out and get this package today, so I went out and I got the package, even though I was kind of blech. But honestly, it was also a good excuse for me to get out and go outside and things like that. Because I need to get out more, honestly. Like, it's just, I'm kind of in this like state right now where it's just like I don't like going out as much at all. Like, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, I guess like I'm practically like a shut-in at this point, and I shouldn't be. I really shouldn't be, but you know, that's just kind of how I've been lately. So, such is that. But yeah, you know what I have been doing is, it's funny because I was taking a break from watching anime because like the fall season, like this last fall season, which we're still in right now, we haven't quite entered the winter season for anime yet. The fall season for anime has been not very good, in my opinion. There's been like a couple of interesting things that I've been following along with, but it's not been So like what I decided to do was, I was kind of like not following along the fall season of anime for quite some time. And oh, I see DLG and Lettuce. Good to see you guys. Glad to have you in here. Which of us is ever 100% here? Yeah, it's true, DLG. That's true. Hey, what's up, Lettuce? It's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. Have to go be in the wild. Yeah, I know. Glad to see you're alive still. Yeah, I know. I was kind of taking a break from some... Well, not really a break. It was a combination of, like, I was getting really frustrated with streaming, plus I was actually really busy this week on the days that I wasn't able to stream. And then on top of that, I was going to stream yesterday, but then I got sick, and I'm still kind of, like, coming down from being sick right now. So my brain is very mushy. I have a very mushy brain right now. Let's see. Heard butt stuff is wild, but it don't make no child. Alright, man. Not being dead is good. It is true. It is true. Death is not the ideal thing around here. But yeah, so anyways, the point that I was making is that I wasn't watching much anime from the fall season because I thought it's not been all that great. So what I decided to do was I did a poll on Twitter, and I did a poll on YouTube community as well, like basically explaining that I'm rewatching like my old favorites, and then asking for people's opinion on like what from the classics that I like and stuff like that, like what I should look into. And it looks like a lot of people were really kind of like telling me I should go back and watch Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which is like one of my all-time favorites. So I was actually about to start watching that today, probably like later tonight. I also went and caught up on some like other animes that I've been keeping track of. I'm kind of on this kick right now where I'm trying to acquire all of my all-time favorite animes. Not just rewatch them, but actually to like own them. So I'm like watching them and then purchasing them or acquiring them or whatever. Because what happened was recently a website that I used for watching anime got shut down. And it was a site that I trusted for like years and years and years. Like I'd been using it for quite some time, and they finally just got shut down. And I was like, that's like a sign that I need to like start to physically acquire, well, you know, whether it's physical copies or data copies or whatever. I need to physically acquire my favorite animes and things like that. So that's what I decided was I'm going to start like rewatching all my favorites, and also like trying to like acquire them as well. So I've been kind of on that kick lately. And Standalone Complex was like one that I've always wanted to get my hands on, but it's been so difficult because it's if I remember correctly, it's pretty pricey. But it doesn't seem like it's so bad to get them right now. Like I've been trying to like, you know, obviously I could like get them used or things like that. So, hey, what's up, James P? Good to see you, buddy. Being dead is being permabanned from life. That's true. Have to go out and get my ID renewed tomorrow. I just hope it's not too far expired. Okay. All right, DLG. Considering how some things can be digitally altered now to memory hole stuff, better to get the physical media if you really like something. Yeah, that is pretty true. Well, like I said, I came to kind of like that thought process when that website that I was using for so long shut down. And like it was just like, you know, streaming is great and all, and that's awesome, but like I always get a little worried about the idea of like it's totally possible that someday it'll just not be available anymore. Like or you're going to have to like pay some obscene like fortune to like watch it, or you know, you're going to have to be dedicated to like a specific streaming service or something that you're going to have to pay for. Like that it's like, oh well, we have this streaming service and 99.9% of everything we sell, like that we show on this streaming service, is hot garbage that you'll never watch, but we also show you your favorite animes. And it's like, well, I don't want to pay for like an expensive streaming service just to like watch like one thing, you know? So I'd rather like acquire them. I'd rather like, you know, go out of my way, get my hands on them, and then I just own them and I can watch them whenever I want. So that's kind of what I've been doing lately. So yeah, it's, and like the thing is too is like whenever I get into a dry spell of like, oh, like fall season is garbage mostly, then it's like that's when I get in the mood to like rewatch my favorites, you know. And it's not very common. Like usually, like the majority of anime that is being released in any particular season is like, you know, pretty decent. But this particular season, I was just like not overly excited for. So I was just like, okay, well, this is probably a good time for me to kind of come back and watch my classics that I love so much. Let's see. You have blood, semen, and unnecessary organs you can part with for cash. I mean, I guess. It's true. Anime conventions are a place to find stuff or half-price books. I used to do that when I was younger. That's not something I really do anymore. You know, like I don't really go out to like that was something like me and my friends used to do when we were like teenagers, because like I mean, I was always like, I was an anime nerd from age like so I was like in middle school when I became, well, no, I was actually in elementary school when I first became a fan of anime, but like it was like late elementary school, and then I was hardcore like, because the thing is so when I was like a 6th grader in elementary school, like a 5th or 6th grader in elementary school, I was introduced to what ended up becoming my favorite anime of all time, which is FLCL. And I know that there's a lot of people who talk, like, I feel like I've been noticing that there's a lot more people recently who think that FLCL is garbage. I don't care what anybody says. it's my all-time favorite. And honestly, if I'd never seen FLCL as, you know, a kid, I like when I at the time that I saw it, I would probably have never been a fan of anime, honestly. That anime, like, I tell people, like, it changed my life, and they're like, oh, you're over exaggerating, FLCL changed your life, and I'm like, no, it did. Like, that anime single-handedly changed my entire life. Like, I can definitely say without a doubt in my mind, if I had never seen FLCL when I did, I would have never become a weeb, for sure. Never, ever. Like, I mean, I was into, like, you know, cartoons, like, you know, when I was a kid, I was into, like, Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and stuff like that. But, I mean, I'd watched my fair share of anime here and there. Like, you know, I've watched, like, Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid and watched some other things here and there. But nothing, like, but it was never something that I was, like, really deeply fascinated with. It was never something that was particularly, like, so important to me, I guess. Like, anime in general was never this, like, big deal for me ever until I saw FLCL. And then I'd never seen, because, like, the thing is, too, is that, like, FLCL, like, taught me a lot of different things about not only, like, anime, but also, like, the concept of animation as an entertainment media. It taught me about the concept of abstract storytelling. It taught me the concept of, you know, explaining a metaphor in a fantastic way that isn't, like, in other words, like, using an extreme fantastic concept that can't possibly be realistic, but it's explained, but it's used to explain a metaphor. You know, so, like, that was, like, when I was a kid, that was something that was really deep for me that I'd never understood until I had watched that series, you know? Because the other thing is, FLCL is just, like, it's just a collection of, like, really deep metaphors, like, explained through science fiction and fantasy. And, like, that was, like, when I was a kid watching that was my first time ever grasping that as, like, a concept, you know, because I was pretty young, you know? And, I mean, obviously, you know, when I watch it now, it's, you know, I can definitely, it's a lot more heavy-handed, and it's, like, really, it feels kind of, like, obvious, and I've seen, you know, other animes that are probably have more finesse and more subtlety to them. But the thing is that, like, having that experience at that age with that show kind of, like, really changed my understanding of, you know, animation as, like, an entertainment medium for, like, storytelling, for complex storytelling. And that's what really got me into that stuff. So, I mean, you know, it's still to this day my all-time favorite. Like, I mean, I have, like, the collector's edition Blu-ray, and I have, like, the omnibus. So, the FLCL omnibus as well, which are, like, two of my most prized, like, you know, anime memorabilia. So, you know, I love that show. And I mean, like I said, like, nobody's ever going to be able to convince me otherwise, because I've definitely seen, I feel like, you know, it was a lot more popular when I was younger, I guess, and, like, even as a teenager it was pretty popular, but I feel like now when I see people talking about it, I feel like it gets a little bit more hate than it used to, which I feel like is kind of unfortunate, but it's fine, because I still adore it as a series. How big is the package? It's like medium size. It's you know, it's like kind of like that big, I guess. I don't know. Big enough it deserves its own live stream. Sorta, yeah, sorta. It's from Bo Falcon. I'm kind of hoping he will come in and hang out with us, but if he doesn't, it's fine. And I mean, I'm gonna keep this stream up because I don't give a shit. So I don't care about it doing high numbers or whatever. I feel like if people want to rewatch it, that's fine. He has to stream it after dark. You got lucky living in the West Coast, being stuck in rural South, totally different experience. Oh, okay. Like, you mean based on, like, the ability to watch anime or something? Because I think that comment came up when we were talking about anime, or when I was talking about anime. It's what I do on weekend conventions or shows where I find a lot of the random stuff for perp. That's pretty cool, James P. That's pretty nice. FLCL is a classic. Yeah, it is. Like, I adore it. I literally, like, I have, like, you know those vivid memories you have in your life where, you can literally, like, when you try, like, you have those memories that when you remember back to them, you can literally remember everything so vividly. Like, you can remember, like, the time of day, like, the surroundings around you, like, the smells, the tastes, the sounds, like, you remember exactly, like, what you were doing, what you were thinking, like, those really super vivid memories. I have memories like that for watching FLCL, like, for the first time ever. Not even joking. Because I remember, because I was at my grandparents' house. I remember it was, I'll never forget it. I was at my grandparents' house, and what happened was, it was on a weekend, and I was supposed to be asleep, but the thing is that, like, my parents weren't there, my grandparents were, and my grandparents were always really lenient about, like, my bedtime, which is what I really enjoyed about, like, going over and spending time with my grandparents, was I knew that I got to stay up later than I was ever allowed to at home. And so they would let me get away with that stuff. And I'll never forget being in my grandparents' house, and they had a big, gigantic tube television. So, like literally, like, from floor to ceiling television, but it's also a tube. So it's, like, absolutely gigantic. I even remember, like, way later on having to get, like, people to haul that gigantic TV out because it was so big and ginormous. It was just stupid. Literally wall-to-ceiling tube television with a humongous plastic screen, and it was, like, edged. So, like you could. I remember being able to, like, scratch my fingernails across it, and it would make, like, a jeep, 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 jeep sound. But yeah. So I remember staying up late at my grandparents' house. My grandparents were asleep, and it was late at night, and Toonami was on. Toonami on Cartoon Network was on. And they were doing a special thing where they were running a whole bunch of anime, but the main thing that they were doing was they marathoned all 6 episodes of FLCL. And it was the first time I had ever seen FLCL before. And, like, I had no context to do it. All I knew was it was, like, late night anime television. And I'd seen stuff like Dragon Ball Z, and, like, I was into Zoids or whatever it was called. And I'd seen some Gundam stuff. Like, I was also kind of into G Gundam just a little bit. Just a teeny tiny bit. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to watch some, like, cool late night anime where they have, like, sexy stuff. Like, and I was, like, a kid, so I was, like, a stupid 5th or 6th grader. And I was like, ooh, sexy stuff that I don't understand. And ooh, violence. I mean, I had a pretty good grasp on adult content at a young age, but I was still like, ooh, like, I'm not supposed to be watching this, but I can, So they marathoned all 6 episodes of back-to-back-to-back, episode 1 through 6 of FLCL. And I marathoned that entire series that night, and I was, like, forever changed afterwards. Like, it like, literally changed me as a person. And I felt like it was like as if, like, I had somehow achieved some kind of, like, unusual piece of childhood enlightenment from, like, watching those, like, 6 episodes of FLCL back to back to back like that. And there was other stuff that I stayed up even later for. I remember watching, they played Appleseed, which was, like, the first time I'd ever seen that, and that was pretty cool. So I watched Appleseed on that same night. They played something else too. I remember watching Appleseed, but I can't remember what the other show was. But I definitely will never forget watching all those episodes of FLCL. let's see, I'm gonna go back a little bit. Scorpio Guy says, gotta be careful about that though. People had all these deep analysis of Christian symbology in Evangelion. Turns out they did that stuff because they thought it was cool looking. Yeah, that's actually really funny, is because the even the creator of like Evangelion came out and he's like, oh, I did it because it seemed like a cool idea at the time. Like, I actually was planning to rewatch Evangelion. I have not seen Evangelion since, like, or Evangelion, however you're supposed to say it. I have not seen that series since I was, like, a young teenager, so I was thinking it might be kind of cool. And also, the other thing is that I have not seen it since I was a young teenager, and I also never finished watching it. I got, like... So, I have this bad habit with watching anime. And it sometimes happens and it sometimes doesn't happen. And usually when I tell people about it, they get really frustrated with me. I'll give up on a series randomly. Like, and the thing is, too, that really bothers people is they say, like, oh, did you give up on it because you didn't like it? It's like, no. They're like, why did you stop watching it? And, you know, it's just like, I don't know. They're like, were you bored? No. I just kind of, like, decide. It's literally what happens is, like, I'll be watching a series, and then one day I'll just be like, I'm not going to watch it today. And then, like, after I make that one day where I don't watch it, I just stop. And then I forget to come back to it. And it's, like I said, it's not like it was boring. It's not that it was bad. It's not that I hated it. It's just, I just kind of stopped and forgot. Like, and that was it. Like, you know? So Evangelion was one of the series that did that to me, which was, like, and there's a bunch of others that I did that too with, as well. But yeah, Evangelion was one where I was, like, watching it and I thought it was great. But I just stopped and I didn't come back. And there's no reason or excuse for it. It was just, I just stopped. Like, that was it. It wasn't bad or anything. But I do want to rewatch it. Another one that I did that to was also Serial Experiments Lain. Serial Experiments Lain is another series that I was watching, and I think it was like after 4 or 5 episodes I stopped. And it wasn't because I thought it was bad, I just stopped. That's it. No explanation for it. And also Boogie Pop Phantom was another one that I did that with. Boogie Pop Phantom is hard to get through, though. I remember that. Like, Boogie Pop Phantom was like, I would watch like 2 episodes, and then I would have to like turn it off and then go lay down and like come back to feeling normal again, because that is if you guys have ever seen Boogie Pop Phantom, that is a stressful anime to watch. That is a very stressful series. Very difficult to watch multiple episodes in a row of that series. It's very mentally taxing. It's like a horror anime, but it's more like messes you up with like trying to like process the information that they're like giving to you, because it's so heavy-handed. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that. The only memories clearer than post-nut clarity. Japan is 1.5 self-identified as Christian. Japan has like a really interesting history with Catholicism and Christianity. I would say one of the best things that ever taught me how the Japanese view Catholicism and Christianity is, and I've talked about how great of a book it is multiple times, is Shogun by James Clavell. Shogun, because Shogun is a story about feudal Japan during the Spanish Inquisition, and there's a lot of interesting, info, because it's historical fiction, which means it's a fictional story, but it uses real events that happened in real life. That it bases its fiction off of. And, it's very interesting to see how Catholicism and Christianity play during the Spanish Inquisition in feudal Japan. And I think it's also heavily influenced a lot of how Japanese culture perceives Christianity and Catholicism in general, and why they represent it the way that they do in their varieties of media. for example, there is a lot of really interesting anime that utilizes Christianity and Catholicism as you'll often notice that when you see Catholic or Christian references in anime, they're often perceived as antagonistic characters. Like, if you watch a lot of fantasy anime, you'll see that they'll have, like, oh, like, there's this church and they follow this god, and like they believe through, you know, almost cult-like worshiping and things like that, they're doing the right thing for the god and their people, and then they end up being the antagonists who do a lot of really awful things. And I think that is a good and interesting reference towards their overall cultural understanding of Catholicism in general, and you know, Christianity. I'm not a religious person. I'm not, like, you know, not a person who says, like, Christianity's evil or Christianity is good. I kind of, like, try to hold a neutral stance on it and just say, like, if people, like, there are plenty of people out there that need Christianity in their lives to be, you know, functioning human beings, and that's okay. But, I mean, I'm not personally going to be a part of it, and I don't have a stance against it, nor do I have one for it. But I do think that it's really interesting when you dive into Japanese culture and their perceptions of, you know, Catholicism and things like that. I am falling behind. I'm sorry, guys. Vivid memories. I only have 2 moments that can be classified like that. Oklahoma City bombing and 9/11. Not really things you want to have stuck in your head. Yeah, I also have a vivid memory of, like, where I was and what I was doing when 9/11 occurred. And it's really interesting, too, about that, because when 9/11 occurred, I was very young. And I remember I have this weirdly vivid memory of it didn't, like, affect me at the time. It didn't have any impact on my brain as a child. In other words, like, I wasn't, like, distraught. I wasn't, like, crying. I wasn't, like, freaking out. I wasn't, like, this emotional mess as a child when 9/11 occurred. In fact, I remember having this really, like, it's almost creepy to me in a way, because I remember it was like my brain as a child couldn't understand it. So I didn't have an emotional response to it because it didn't make sense to me, because at the time it was like, this is a thing that occurred on TV, right? So, like, I'm watching the event through the television, and there was, like, this emotional disconnect from it for me as a child. But what's really weird is that the memory of that being the situation for me is so burned into my memory. Like, the imagery, like, I remember where I was standing. I remember, like, when I was watching the TV. I remember talking to my parents about it. I remember, like where I was, what time it was, like, what was around me. Like, I remember the footage that I saw on the television. I remember, like, my response to it and how disconnected I was. And I remember all that stuff so vividly. So it's really interesting because when I was a child, it's like it didn't have this impact on me in the moment, but it had this unbelievable impact on me later on as I got older. Because when I recall that memory, I remember it so vividly and so clearly. I remember exactly how I felt, and I remember everything that was happening around me at the time that it occurred. So it's just kind of, like, weird, because there's this emotional disconnect at the time of occurrence, but, like, obviously it stuck with me as this very important, very heavy thing way later as I grew up, you know, and got older. So I don't know. It's you know, it's kind of strange that way. And there are some memories in my life like that. Like, I have, like, there's some very important memories in my life that are burned into my brain for the rest of my life. You know, there's some other ones, like, there's definitely some ones that are not good for me to talk about, because they are on the side of like traumatic. But you know, it's stuff like that where it's like significant importance, trauma, or things like I was talking about with FLCL that feel like they greatly impacted my life in some way. Those are the ones that I remember so clearly and so vividly. Yeah, talking about like the traumatic memories, like I noticed Scorpiogeist mentioned like the Kennedy assassination stuff. Yeah, that stuff sticks with you. Even if it doesn't, like I said, like even if there isn't like, you don't have like a full connection to it, like what I was mentioning before. Big square projection TV, like 60-inch. I don't think they made tubes that big. I think it was a projection TV, something like that. It was huge. I remember it very, very, very well. And it didn't have like a glass screen, so it probably was not an actual tube. It had like a big plastic screen. But yeah, Gundam is wonderful for the memes, like Tequila Gundam and the windmill. Wasn't Tequila Gundam wasn't that from G? Yeah, because you mentioned G Gundam. I love G Gundam. G Gundam was one of my favorites. In fact, I have this like this is a character from G Gundam. This was like the bad guy, the foot soldiers from G Gundam, and they were my favorites. So much so that I got like a little you know toy of it, and I had this at a very young age. It's actually missing some pieces. Like there's like a little jet booster that fell off the back of his leg and stuff that's gone forever. And also I think I'm like missing some like of his optional hand pieces too. But yeah, I loved G Gundam when I was a kid. I thought the bad guys were so cool. They were my favorite. I always have a thing for villains in anime and stuff like that, and G Gundam was one that I thought the villains were really cool. Even just the regular old foot soldiers I thought were really awesome. Holds up the doll. All right, Hobbs, show us on the doll where FLCL touched you. Yeah, like it's traumatic. No, I love that series. It's literally like I have no like problem saying to people like, oh yeah, it's my all-time favorite. It'll always be my all-time favorite. I don't care what anybody says about it. And I have like so many other like new favorite animes all the time, but nothing will ever be able to top FLCL because it's literally something that changed my life. Like that's absolutely true for me. You should watch and redub it. You'd be a great Shinji. Are you talking? What anime are you talking about? Are you talking about? I'm not sure which Shinji. I don't know which one. I don't recognize that name off the top of my head. I'm sorry if I don't recognize that name specifically. Yes, I do. You should see the period era stuff where there were Japanese. Well, yeah, there were definitely like some, because like one of the main characters in Shogun is Christian, and is a Japanese Christian, and that character is one of the single most important characters in the entire series. And the whole thing is that that character is a very stout, you know, Christian believer, and believes in the idea that, you know, Christianity has all this good to offer, you know, the Japanese people. And they're not wrong. The thing is that makes Shogun really interesting is that it's not about religion being evil. It's about people. Like, Shogun is a story about a bunch of unique individuals doing what they believe is the right thing. So like even the more antagonistic characters of Shogun are not necessarily bad people. There's some characters that are worse than others, but it's like, for example, there are some characters that are allies of the main characters that are fighting against the Spanish Inquisition in the story. And even though they are on the side that the main characters are primarily oriented with, they still do awful, terrible things. Like, really disgustingly awful, terrible things. And, like, even the main characters have their fair share of doing awful things. Like, Shogun is a great story because there are, like, I would say there are, like, 3 focal point main characters. But they all have, like, good sides, bad sides, you know, things that are morally reprehensible versus things that are, you know, morally acclaimed, you know? And the thing is, too, is that there's also a huge collection of, like, other characters that have a lot of different parts of the story that revolve around them. And some of them do more good than bad, and some of them do more bad than good. And the story of Shogun kind of does this amazing job at really... Shogun is trying to show you life during feudal Japan during the Spanish Inquisition. And there's just all sorts of these morally gray areas for every character in the story. And it makes it really fascinating. Like, there are characters that you kind of lean more against than others, while simultaneously you understand the perspective that they're coming from of why they're doing what they're doing. Like, some of them are, you know, warlords that are accomplishing awful deeds for the greater good of expanding and protecting the country. So it's not that, like, Catholicism is evil, you know, and definitely it's not like this evil thing in Shogun. But the thing is that a lot of the characters that are on the side of the Spanish Inquisition while entering and influencing Japan with Catholicism, a lot of the characters that are heavily involved with what's going on do some pretty awful and disgusting things. Like, really, like, to the core, genuinely, like, evil things. But they're not necessarily, like, evil people. So it's a very complicated book that is, I mean, if you have the patience to read Shogun, heavily recommend it. It's one of my favorite books of all time at this point. But it definitely gives you an interesting, like, perspective as to why Japanese culture treats Catholicism and Christianity the way that they do, as, like, you know, a larger number of people that are not particularly involved with that religion. It was brutal. It was awful. Like, but that doesn't mean that the religion itself is evil. It just means that there was a lot of evil done in the name of the religion. You know what I mean? So it's pretty interesting stuff. Shogun's a great book. Heavily recommend it. Let's see how they interpret all of it. Blame the Dutch and the Portuguese. Yeah, the Portuguese had a very interesting involvement, specifically with the Spanish Inquisition. And they were originally the main force of people who were, you know, basically raising the influence of Catholicism in Japan, before the Spanish really came in and started doing what they were doing. It's interesting stuff. Like, the Spanish Inquisition in general is very, very fascinating. It's pretty gross, though. Like, there's a lot of really terrible things that happen because of the Spanish Inquisition. And also the main focal character like, the main character in Shogun is Dutch, if I remember correctly. Scorpion guy's talking about it. They all worship a zombie. Oh, kind of. Angels as the antagonists and devils/demons as the protagonists. Yep. Favorite things is, I love it when animes focus on the importance of not like talking about I love it when animes kind of have a perspective on the importance of not judging people by race or creed or species, which is pretty common, like more so in a lot of like fantasy anime, where like they kind of have the idea of like, well, human, you know, they have like a lot of animes that are like, oh, the humans want to eradicate all the monsters, but they're not doing it on a case-by-case basis. In other words, they're just assuming that the entire species of a rate of like, you know, an entire species of like monsters or demons are just automatically evil, and there's no negotiating with them, so they all have to be wiped out. And then, you know, anime will come in, a fantasy anime will come in and be like, no, we need to like make sure that, you know, the humans, the elves, the beast people, the demon characters, like they all need to like work together. You can't just, you know, automatically assume that all of one species is completely evil because you have like a few like singular bad ones. And I like that aspect in a lot of that stuff. And I think that, you know, that's kind of what they try to do with that kind of stuff, where they're like, oh, where the demons are the good guys and the angels are the bad guys. And I think it's because they're trying to tell a story about the problem with making that kind, like the problem with having like a social norm, you know, where it's like, oh, you can just assume that all angels are good and you can just assume that all demons are bad. And I think that's kind of like the narrative behind that kind of stuff. And I like that. Like, I like the idea of, you know, not, I mean, I'm very, you know, I'm a person who's very oriented with the idea of like, all people should be judged on a case-by-case basis, right? Which is, like, you should assume that people are good before they prove to you that they're evil. You know what I mean? Like, it's the classic saying of, like, you know, innocent until proven guilty. Which is, like, you should always assume that people are doing the right thing until you can until you find the evidence necessary to prove that they are not doing, until find the evidence necessary to prove that they are in fact doing something terrible or evil, you know? And I think that that's what a lot of those stories kind of like try to emphasize a lot. Let's see. You can remember 9/11 down to how the room smelled? That's crazy. A lot of times villains get to be the most interesting and deep characters. I mean, when it's done right, sure. Like, absolutely. I mean, I've seen plenty of cases of, like, really boring villains. Like, I was watching an anime that ended up being really bad, and the villains were just garbage. Like, what was it? It was this anime about, like, a guy who was, like, a farmer, and he was like, oh, I want to be, like, the best farmer in the world, but I have to be a hero, too, and I don't really want to do that. Terrible anime. It was actually really bad. And they had, like, this dragon that was, like, the main villain for, like, 3 or 4 episodes. And it was, like, the worst stereotypical bad guy ever. Where, like, the worst kind of bad guys are the ones where it's like, I'm evil for the sake of being evil. Like, oh, and, like, he had, like, this whole plan that didn't make any sense. Where he was like, I had this plan to, like, come in and then kill all the people in the village. And then once I killed all the people in the village, I wanted to go and kill everybody on the entire planet. But in order to do that, I needed to, like, run away and be dead for 15 years. That way I could come back from the one sole survivor of the village who spread the rumor of my existence. That way it would spread terror across the world so that I could come back and then kill everybody again. And it's like... And then they had this whole thing where it was like... But the information was, like, never told to anybody, and it was hidden in a library that was, like, only accessible to royalty. And they were, like, saying how, like, the information needed to be hidden from everybody. But at the same time, like, there were people who recorded that it happened... And any form of royalty could have learned it at any particular given time. And then, like, it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. And then, like, I was like, well, wait a minute. Well, then why did you need to disappear for 15 years to spread the rumor of your existence so that you could go and kill everybody when you didn't have to do that at all? You could have just come in and killed everybody right away. Like, you literally could have just massacred, like, everybody, right? So, like, why did you need to, like, disappear for 15 years to come back and keep doing what you were already doing with no explanation? And then he's like, I needed to feed off of the fear of people. And it's like, but you could have fed off the fear of people while you were massacring them. Like, I don't understand why you had to, like, sleep for 15 years. Like, or like, why the information needed to be hidden, but then was made publicly accessible to royalty in a forbidden library that wasn't actually forbidden. But then the royalty, like, it's like the royalty knew about its existence, and, like, people had to report on it, so that means that there were people who knew that it had happened and it existed, but somehow you were able to, like, keep it hidden from everybody, even though people knew that it existed, and it never traversed into different forms of media for other people to know about? Like, did you kill all the people that, like, recorded the information? Or, like, I don't understand! I don't understand! It was very weird. It was just so bad. But anyways, my point is that, like, I dislike villains that are, like, evil for the sake of being evil. Like, that's the worst. I like it when a villain is very, meticulous, or very careful, or well planned out, or they have, like, some objective. Like, it's not about just being evil for the sake of being evil. It's like they're trying to accomplish something specific. And they have to do a large number of evil things in order to accomplish that very specific goal. And, like, the goal itself could be tiny, but the importance of it is the relevance of how focused they are on that goal and what they will do in order to achieve it. That's what makes a really good villain, in my opinion. Shingle from Evangelion was, for... Okay. Oh, Shinji. You meant Shinji from Evangelion. Okay. Hey, what's up, Chris God? How you doing, buddy boo? It's good to see you, man. Yeah. Everybody's saying hi to Chris. What's up, man? What's up? Sometimes you have to have a villain who is comically evil just because... Yeah, but I mean, like, I gave up on watching that show because I thought it was terrible. Like, it was so stupid. But I mean, like, there's some characters that I can think of, like, that I really enjoyed because of how they were designed as evil characters. Like, for example, I was talking a little while ago about how, I was talking about it in Cinder Stream. I just recently rewatched Redo of a Healer, which, despite the large amount of extreme hatred that show gets, and reasonably so, to be honest, I like it. I like Redo of a Healer. I think it's a good story. I think that the manga is better than the anime, but also I think that the manga, you have to have a very strong stomach to be able to handle the manga. It's very unbelievably gruesome, like, to the point of where it's like there's actually there is one character in Redo of a Healer that is hands down one of the most disgustingly awful, slimy, putrid, evil pieces of shit I've ever seen as a villain in my entire life. Like, literally, like, so evil and awful that it literally is, like, physically, like, it makes you, like, physically ill to know what they've done as a character. And the thing is that was really interesting was when I was rewatching Redo of a Healer as the anime, despite the intense, like, awful things that happen in that anime, the anime's softer than the manga. It's, like, soft. The manga's very brutal. Like, very, very unbelievably brutal. But it has a whole cast of great villains. like really genuinely like evil characters that are very, what makes those evil characters so interesting in Redo is it's like I said, they're very goal-oriented villains. They have they're very goal-oriented, they're very meticulous, they're very like they're just very focused in what they're trying to do, and that's what makes them such great evil villains. My favorite evil character in Redo of a Healer, and it was funny because I grew to appreciate the character heavily in the manga, but when I rewatched the anime, I realized that they did the character kind of dirty in the anime. They didn't give the character the real appreciation of being evil scum as they did in the manga. And that character that's one of my favorite baddies in Redo of a Healer is Norn, Princess Norn. Princess Norn is the younger sister of Princess Flare, who's one of the other evil characters in the story. Norn is so nasty. Like, she's so... like, and the thing is, though, is that what makes Norn such a great evil character is she's a genius. Like, that's how she's presented. And there's a whole bunch of things that happen with her before she becomes, like... I mean, I feel like it's pretty obvious, but she ends up joining the team of the main character. But the things that she ends up being capable of doing in the manga really present her as this ruthlessly evil, hyper-intelligent character. And you not only get to see it when she's, you know, her normal evil self, but you also still get to see it when she joins the main character's team. Because she's still, like, ruthlessly intelligent and brutal with what she does with her level of intelligence. And so she became one of my favorite characters in Redo of a Healer, because I just liked how, like, the idea was that they have a bunch of really evil characters, but it was fascinating how they personified her level of intelligence in the series. Like, how brutally intelligent she was as a character made her really fascinating, and she was always able to outthink everybody. She was always, like, I mean, obviously, you know, the main character wins against her, but he has to go through an insane amount of awful things in order to basically defeat her and capture her. But I just liked her, like, as that character, as this brutally evil, hyper-intelligent villainess. It was great. But there's a whole bunch of bad guys that are just, well, like, it's really interesting because all the bad guys in Redo of Healer have, like, goals. Like, they're not just trying to, like, take over the world or become the most powerful being in all of existence. They all have very specific ideas and things that they're trying to accomplish at any cost necessary. And that's what makes them such interesting villains in the story. When I was talking about the most evil, putrid, disgusting, awful character in the entire show, or I should say in the entire manga, it's there's a character called Bullet in Redo of Healer. And the thing is that when you watch the anime, they're very soft with Bullet. In the sense of, because they, like, the story of Bullet as a villain, they literally could not tell it on the show. They can't. They literally cannot. Like, Bullet is such an obscenely awful, disgusting, slimy piece of shit person that the things that he does as a character are so putridly awful that I'm absolutely positive that if they put it in the anime would have been canceled. Like, right away. They cannot tell the story of the villain Bullet in the anime. It's literally impossible. It's like... he's just a very unbelievably disturbed individual. Unbelievably disturbed individual who does a insane amount of just disgustingly evil acts that are just absolutely unforgivable. Like, unbelievably, completely unforgivable. But what's also interesting about that character is, and it makes him such a fascinating villain, despite the fact that he's a disgustingly awful person, is, as a character, he is trying to accomplish something for the greater good of, like, the world, which is very weird. It's very interesting, to say the least. Like, I mean, even if you don't like the anime redo of A Healer, I would recommend the manga, but the thing is, too, is that, you have to have, like, if you're gonna read the manga of redo of A Healer, you have to, like, have, like, a really strong stomach. Like a will that is, like, impervious to, like, anything, because it's brutal. It is literally some of the most, like, some of the acts that the bad guys do in that story are just, like, putrid. Like, absolutely putrid. But yeah, Bullet is the worst villain. And, like, that's what makes him so interesting, too, is because he's trying to do something good in the story. But he is, literally scum of the earth. Like, the bottom of the barrel. The most disgusting, you know, human piece of shit in existence. He's awful. Psychological terror, says Chris Scott. Evil Dragon, I need them to fear me. You could start by taking off the clown makeup and oversized shoes. Yeah, I assume you're talking about the anime that I was talking about that was terrible with the bad dragon character or whatever. Yeah, he's not that great. Excuse me. Premise for a villain, what would you do for a Klondike bar? Just getting home from work and trying to decide, do I smoke a bowl followed by a dab or the other way around? Damn, Chris. I think it's almost been more than a year now since I've enjoyed herbage. It's been a long time for me. Why not both, says DLG. Good answer. Both at the same time? Damn, that's crazy, Scorp. That'd be intense. Redo of A Healer is the kind of story where there are no good guys. Yeah, that's true. Even the main character, like, that's another thing that's really interesting that I like about Redo is the main character, who's the protagonist, is literally a lesser of many evils. Like, that's the whole point, is he's terrible. Like, he does awful things. He's an awful character. But he's the lesser of many much greater evils. And that's kind of like the whole point of the story, is having a villain who is essentially fighting much greater, more powerful villains than himself. And it kind of like one of the things that I like about that kind of storytelling is I love it. I love a story that is able to make villains appear more human. Like I said, like, you know, being like just a great force of evil that does evil for the sake of evil is boring. It's flat. It's, you know, it's not very entertaining nor realistic. But when you have villains that have, like, qualities about them that make them less of a force of evil and more of, like, a realistic human being to some degree, it makes them more interesting, and you kind of get to see this side that says to you, like, they're human, they're mortal, you know, they're a living, breathing creature that is still to some extent attempting to survive in some way or accomplish something, right? So like one of my favorite examples of that, which I love talking about, is I'm kind of going to like talk about something involved with magic, but it's not magic cards or anything like that. And I've talked about it before, is I have the Legends trilogy, right? I actually have both Legends trilogies, Cycle 1 and Cycle 2. Cycle 1 being my favorite. I just noticed DLG says Bullet is NC-17 content. Yeah, I mean, it's so like, the thing is I can't explain what Bullet does as a character because it would literally get me in trouble on YouTube probably just talking about it. He like he just like, let me just put it this way. He commits unbelievable, unspeakable acts of evil against people of like all types and all kinds. And to try to explain that without going into explicit detail, I would say the evil acts that he commits are not restricted by sex or age, if that kind of like gives more context. And the thing is too is that Bullet he's completely insane. And the thing is that he's insane in a way that makes the way that he harms individuals like more disturbing and inexcusable. So like, it's very hard. Like, if you were really curious, I would recommend reading the series and seeing like how you feel about it. But like, because there's literally multiple chapters in Redo that talk about Bullet as a character, and they're very difficult to get through. Like, very, very difficult to get through. Like especially like I personally have a thing. I can't perfectly explain it, but a thing that affects me very deeply emotionally is harm to children. I have a very particular issue with children experiencing harm. And the thing is because there's plenty of like things where like, you know, you'd go out and you'd watch a movie or you'd read a book and, you know, there's a child death or whatever, right? And most people can kind of like shrug it off, like it's like, oh, you know, this character who was a young child is dead. That kind of stuff really affects me very hard, and I don't really have an explanation as to why it affects me so deeply. I've just always felt that way, and I've had other people kind of tell me like, no, like that's a normal human response to be protective over children and also be very deeply emotionally affected by the harm towards children. And it's just kind of interesting to me in particular because, like, I don't really like being around children. I don't like spending my time with children or being involved with them. You know, I try to, you know, when I see people out on the streets with their kids or whatever, I try to leave them alone. I don't want to be involved with them in any way. And I'll often even walk my dog away from children because I don't want children bothering me or bothering my dog. So I don't really necessarily have a particular attachment to children in general. But for some reason that I cannot personally explain, media that involves the harm or death of children very deeply affects me. And it makes me unbelievably uncomfortable. I very much can't stand watching harm come to children specifically. It disturbs me. And I have a rough time handling that emotionally. Bullet's backstory in Redo of a Healer is very deeply involved with harming children in very terrible and explicit ways, like, that are just absolutely not okay in any fashion whatsoever. And it's very hard to get through it. It's very, especially for me, it's very difficult to read Bullet's backstory because he has a particular, his character has a particular interest in harming children, specifically. And it's very, very disturbing, and the manga on its own is very graphic. So, Bullet is just a very fucked up individual, is what he is. He's a, and the thing is too, is he's psychotic. He's a psychopath. So it makes it, it makes it very difficult to, like, read through Bullet's background and story, and there's multiple chapters dedicated to it. So it makes you, like, it's honestly, like, from the writer, from the way that the writer handles it. The writer of Redo does this amazing job at making, like, when he wants you to hate a character, he knows how to really pull that hatred out of you. Like, he wants you to hate Bullet. Like, that's literally the sole purpose of Bullet's design as a character. He wants you to hate Bullet with every fiber of your being. And let me tell you, it's effective. But the thing is that makes it so interesting, too, is that when you get into Redo, the deeper you go into it, Bullet's existence in the story is very important. He's an extremely important character. And the thing is that his importance as a character, the juxtaposition that it gives to the main character is so fascinating, because the main character wants Bullet dead with every fiber of his being. He wants to kill Bullet because Bullet is the worst. He is the worst character. He is the most awful, disgusting, evil piece of shit character in the entire series, hands down. But at the same time, the importance that Bullet serves as a character in the story means that the main character has to not only hunt Bullet down, but also preserve his life to a degree in order to accomplish something for the greater good of, like, mankind on the planet. And it's amazing, like, that the writer is able to tell this story of this evil, awful character that you want to hate with your every fiber of being, but at the same time, that character must live. They must be found, and they must live for a particular period of time that we don't understand. Like, and the idea is that, like, because I'm a little behind on the series, the manga series for Redo of a Healer, but basically I'm in the portion where the main character is hunting him down. He's trying to hunt down Bullet. But at the same time, there's a lot of really bad evil characters, and all the evil bad guys kind of have their own thing going on. Like, they're all trying to accomplish their own unique goal. And what's happening is the main character is trying to hunt down Bullet, but at the same time, in order to do that, he has to deal with all of these other individual evil characters that are all trying to accomplish a variety of different evil goals and schemes for whatever purpose that they may serve. So it's like I said, like, you have to have a strong stomach to read the story. It's a good story, though. Like, it's like the characters in Redo of a Healer are so dynamic and deep. Like, probably some of the deepest villain writing I've ever seen in a manga series ever, easily. It's pretty fantastic. But like I said, you have to have a very strong stomach to get through it, because it's brutal, unbelievably brutal. Hey, what's up, Bo Falcon? Good to see you, dude. I'm glad you're in here. I have a package from you that I'm going to open, which I will be doing in just a short little bit. What I was mentioning earlier before I got distracted talking about Bullet a bit deeper, I was mentioning, like, what kind of, like, villains I like seeing in stories. And one of the things I was bringing up was that I like it when villains kind of, you get to see a more human side to them. And one of the most fascinating cases of a villain that I thought, was written very well, and I was mentioning, like, I was going to bring up magic, is I own the 2 Legends trilogy, and the first Legends trilogy is my favorite. And in the first Legends trilogy, the main villain is named Johann. And Johann is a incredibly deep and fascinating villain. And what makes it him such an interesting villain is that he's played upon as a main character in the story. Like, you're not just following the heroes, you're also following Johann, the main villain. So, like, there are entire chapters of the first trilogy of books of the Legends cycle that are just dedicated to you experiencing what Johann, the main bad guy of the story, is experiencing. And honestly, the chapters where you're following along with Johann as a villain are actually some of the best chapters in the entire series. I mean, there's plenty of amazing things that happen in the trilogy, but the chapters that involve the villain Johann, where you're following along with what he's doing, are just very, very interesting. And my favorite story in the trilogy that involves Johann is there is a portion of the story where Johann is looking for a very powerful like witch, essentially, who is considered to be one of the most powerful witches in all of Jamura, essentially. And he has to go through all this shit to basically find this powerful witch and hunt her down and basically, try to, like, learn her power. And he ends up basically coming across, like, a ancient library that's essentially ruins. It's destroyed. And inside of this library lives this witch. And she's this unbelievably beautiful woman. Like, they kind of explain that she looks like an angel. Like, she's this entity that is just beautiful and pure, and, like, she glows. Like, she has, like, a glowing light that comes off of her, and she's got long, beautiful hair, and, like, she's one of the most beautiful women that, like, any man has ever laid eyes upon, ever. Like, just an unbelievably beautiful woman. And she's very, like, kind and, nice. And this is the witch that he's hunting down, like, that he was looking for to learn power from. And she's just kind and polite, and she gives him access to her library. She's like, pick up any book that is still able to be read and glean as much knowledge as you can from it. And this woman's name, this witch that he hunted down, is Shauku. What he ends up finding out about this woman, Shauku, is that Shauku is not only a witch, but she's also a ancient elder vampire. Basically, one of the oldest, longest living ancient vampires in all of existence, based on being inside of the plane of Dominaria. And not only is she this crazy, ancient, powerful vampire, who, by the way, she's using a spell to make herself look beautiful. She's actually this unbelievably hideous, monstrous, desiccated looking woman vampire creature who is just unbelievably terrifying looking when she's not using magic to make herself look beautiful. But he also finds out that she has been basically raising and feeding off of an ancient eldritch cosmic horror that fell from space and landed like in this area, and she built an entire like thing, like a giant containing source around it. And basically what she does is she feeds off of this eldritch horror to gain its forbidden knowledge. And the thing is that what ends up happening is that Johann finds out about this and sees what she's doing, what she's actually like, and what she's trying to accomplish, and all this stuff that she's doing. And the unbelievably ruthless, evil, terrible, like, you know, the most evil character that we've seen in the series, Johann, like the great, powerful, evil villain Johann. He sees this and he shudders with fear. He understands what's going on and is terrified to his core of Xiaoku. Xiaoku is now something. He basically explains that he has now seen true evil, and he can't even like fathom it, and it terrifies him. The main evil, ruthless villain who's like murdered like thousands upon thousands of people, has done plenty of awful evil acts and all these things, is terrified of Xiaoku. And he's kind of like recognized that this is a level of evil that he could never even bring himself to. And it was just like, I loved that. Like, I love the idea of an evil villain who has a chance to look into what is possibly the truest depth of evil, right? Like, the most evil that he could ever possibly be. And he looks into this abyss of pure evil, and he's just like, nah, nope. Like, nope. I ain't doing that shit. That shit's terrifying. Like, imagine something so evil that an evil bad guy, the main evil bad guy, is terrified of it. It was so amazing, and I love it. Like, I love that. Because it gives you this idea that, like, even a character, like, it's the most realistic thing when an evil villain can recognize that there's a depth that he can't even go into. You know what I mean? And, like, the thing is like, I don't give a shit that that's Magic the Gathering, okay? That's just good writing. Who cares if it's Magic the Gathering? That's good writing. Like, I love that. Like, and that's what I was talking about, too, with Redo of a Healer, is that there's a whole bunch of different kinds of, like, evil characters, but they all vary. They're all, like, different levels of evil. Like, they all have different goals, different accomplishments. They're still human beings. They still think like people and have very real human reactions to things, right? That's how you write a good villain. You write a good villain to be a human being. You want them to, like, you want to be able to understand them. Evil for the sake of evil is so shallow, and it's pathetic, and I don't like it. It's dumb. More villains are the most important part of a story. Like, more important than writing the main character themselves. Because if you have a crappy evil villain, then you don't care about how interesting the main character is. Right? Because, like, the thing is you, like, the most interesting stuff is when a main character meets their match, right? Or they have to fail, possibly repeatedly, in order to learn to be able to overcome, right? And you can't accomplish that without a well-written evil villain. All right, I've talked a lot about this. I'm gonna open up the bleh. I'm gonna open up this package that Bo Falcon sent me. He said there's another one on the way. I wasn't expecting 2 packages. I thought I was only gonna get 1, but I got a box here. I'm gonna open it. It's from Mr. Bo Falcon. Sorry that I went so long on that whole spiel. Got my trusty knife out. So I'm gonna find out what's in this package. I'm gonna find out what's in here. Looks like it's been torn open just a little bit, but not too much. Now, I think I have a pretty good idea of what's in here, but I'm not totally sure because I wasn't expecting 2 packages. So that means I don't 100% know what's going to be in this box. So let's see. Keep your gift a surprise! Unwrap your present before opening this envelope? Unwrap your present before opening this envelope. Okay. Alright. Alright, so what do we got in here, huh? Okay, so I've got 2... Oh, I love these little bags. They're so cute. I got 2 little bags here. So this is like 2 packages in 1 package, and you're still sending me another package? That's so nice of you, Bo. Thank you, man. Alright, what do we got here? Okay, so there's a little card on the side here. It says, Merry Xmas Surfer, keep warm out on those walks from Bo Falcon. Did you send him a little suit? Oh my god. I hope. He needs a new coat. He does. Hey, what's up, Cinder Shadow? Good to see you, buddy. Glad to have you in here. Alright, what do we got here? Oh my god, is this a little sweater for him? Oh, he needs a new sweater. This is so perfect. Oh, it's so cute. This is the right size. He's a little guy. It's probably the right size. Looks like it's a small, so it'll probably fit him. Alright, hold on. Oh, so cute. I love it. I'm sure he'll love it too. Oh, it's like nice high quality. Oh, it looks so warm. It looks so warm for him. Oh, it's so cute. Oh my god, so good. His front legs go through this side, and his back legs go through this side. Oh my god. And it looks so warm too. Cause I have like a pretty warm coat for him. But I'm like worried that like it's not quite enough. So this looks great. Oh man, I'm gonna make him wear this probably. I'll probably need to like wash it. Whenever I get clothing, I always wash it first, just in case, because there might be like weird chemicals on it or something. But okay, so he's got a little sweater. I was not expecting that at all. I was not expecting him to get a little sweater. All right, what about this one? It says that Merry Christmas, Surfer. Even you need cute little blankies to go with how cute you are, from Bo Falcon. Did you get him little blankets? Little blankets? I could probably put him on his little bed for him. Oh man. He's gonna love these. He's always really comfortable with wearing coats. Because, I mean, obviously he has to be, otherwise he's gonna just not be comfortable going outside during the winter. Especially because it's been really cold lately. Sent a matching coat for me. Oh, it's like a little puppy blanket, but it's all, it's got all the air sucked out of it. He's actually, is he right over here? It looks like he was sleeping over here, but he left. That's okay. It's like a little air-sealed blanket here. Let me get out my knife so I can break the air seal. Okay. There we go. Should probably pull it out before it expands too far and then it's impossible to get out. Oh my god, it's so soft! Oh my god, he's gonna love this. This is like the... Oh my god, it's so cute with all the puppy paws on it and stuff. And it's so unbelievable. He loves blankets like this. I have like a blanket that I use on my bed that's like large and purple. I have 2 of them actually. And I use one for my bed all the time, and I put the other one on. I have like a couch in my room, so I have like the second blanket on the couch, and he always like, he's either always under that blanket on my bed, or he's snuggling underneath the one on the couch. And I swear it's like made from the exact same material as this. So he will absolutely love this. I know he will. He's a blanket dog. So like, I mean, you made the right choice, man. He's a little short fur. He's a short furred pup. So he gets cold really easily. So his favorite thing is to wrap himself up in a blanket, you know? That's what he loves doing. So I was thinking he might be over here wrapped up under the blanket I have over on the side here, because this blanket, I have a blanket over here for him. Here, I can actually show it on camera. This blanket right here that you guys see, this yellow and black one, that's his favorite blanket. It's his, I mean, he loves the other one in my room too, but that one's his favorite. It's funny because that blanket was made special for me, but he loves it very much, so he's often wrapped up in it. But I'm positive that he will love this blanket. I'll put it on his bed, and he'll probably snuggle up in it. I'll have to wash it, obviously, but thank you so much, Bo Falcon. Oh my god. And you're sending me more things? God, you're crazy. I really appreciate it, man. I legitimately just assumed that this was the only package I was receiving, so I really appreciate what you sent me, man. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. And Merry Christmas to you, too. That's very, very kind. So yeah, he's got a nice little coat now. Cute little coat, cute little blanket. Very cool. I also like these little bags. I know they're nothing really that special, but they're kind of cool. I like them. Probably reuse them for something. Very cool. Okay. Surfer's making out like a little bandit. Yeah, he is, Cinder. He's got all the goods. He's getting Christmas early this year, apparently. Put it around my arm and see how warm it gets? I mean, I can already tell what kind of, like, how warm it's gonna get. Because it's a pretty good quality blanket. I have blankets that are made from the same kind of stuff, so... can never have too many blankies for your puppers. Always have some around to make sure there are some clean when others get dirty. That's true. That is true. I do have a lot of blankets for Surfer, because blankets are his jam. Like, he loves blankets. I have like 4 or 5. There's like, his kennel is over here off to the side, and he's got like 4 or 5 blankets in that kennel. And then he's got that big one back there that's on his little bed and also on my couch. And then he likes to wrap himself in my blanket on my bed. So he does that as well. He's a blanket dog. He's a blanket dog. He loves to wrap himself up in blankets. That's what he's all about. The other gift is for you, but I couldn't forget Surfer. Oh, of course. It's okay. I appreciate it, Bo. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you, man. Hopefully you can pick it up on Wednesday. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm down. That is for a warmth check. I kind of want to give it a wash first before I'm very weird about washing fabrics that I get out of the mail. Like, I always, or like whenever I go shopping or whatever, whenever I get new fabric of any kind, I always wash it first before I try to utilize it. The reason why is because I have actually one time, like when I was a kid, I bought, like, I think it was like a new shirt, and like, this is just a memory I have. I was at like a big store, and I bought a brand new shirt, and I immediately put it on and wore it, like, right out of the bag, wore it the entire day. And I think it was also during the summer, so I sweated as well. And what ended up happening was, whatever kind of like chemical that they used on the fabric, it irritated my skin and gave me a rash for a couple of days. So because of that, I actually learned to always wash fabrics when you get them brand new, like out of a store, like, out of the mail or whatever. So I'm a little cautious about applying new fabrics to my skin right away and stuff like that. Plus, my skin's kind of sensitive sometimes, so I try to be careful with that stuff. The doggo coat is reversible, I think. One side for cold, one side for rain. Oh, I didn't realize that. That's cool. Okay. So I assume, like, because, like, the black inside of the coat is kind of, like... It does seem like it's a little waterproof. So, let me see. So if I take it, open it up, and then flip it, and it's black on the outside... Yeah, that seems like that makes sense. Yeah. I assume that that's, like, waterproof, because it's kind of like a... I don't know how you would describe the fabric on top, but it feels like it's probably like a waterproof fabric. So that's really cool. Alright. I like that. Very cute. Yeah, he will love it. I have a few coats for him, but I don't use all of them because some of them are too thin or uncomfortable for him. There's like a couple of coats that he has that I don't make him wear because they're like they're just a little bit uncomfortable for him. So there's like 3 coats that I use regularly for him. He's got like a little a puppy fashion sweater because it's like a really fancy high quality knit sweater that my stepmother bought for him a long time ago, but it's like a fashion sweater. And then I have a Wookiee coat for him, which is kind of like the coat that I use a lot for him right now because it's very, very warm. I think this will be warmer than that, though, it seems like. So I'll probably get him to start wearing this instead of the Wookiee coat. And then I have, like, a Letterman jacket coat for him. It looks like a Letterman jacket. And he likes that one a lot. Like, he's very comfortable with wearing that. But the problem is that when it gets really, really cold, it's just not warm enough for him. So... I don't make him wear it when it's too cold. Like I said, I make him wear the little Wookiee coat. It's literally like the Wookiee coat is a coat that makes him look like a little tiny Wookiee, because it's like got the brown fur and it's got like the little straps that the bullet straps on him and all that. So it's very cute. The coat is yeah, I read that. Sorry. Yeah. So thank you so much for the gifts, man. I appreciate it. I really do. Yeah, man, it's very nice. I had to go into town to pick up the package today, and I was like really out of it today. I mentioned earlier I was sick yesterday, and I kind of had like an IBS, a really bad IBS attack that basically like KO'd me pretty much for the rest of the day. And today I'm still kind of like feeling some minor symptoms from it. So I had to go into town and I was like, ugh. So I kind of just went into town, picked up the package, and then immediately came back and I was like, ugh, like I'm done. I'm good. And I had like one simple meal today and I don't really want to eat anything for the rest of the day. So I was just feeling kind of gross. But that also might seem like why I'm kind of like out of it a little bit right now too. Is just because like I'm not all mentally here today. My brain is just full of blech, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've just been been a little busy because I'm getting ready to set up, like my new job is setting up. I was also contacted by an old friend today that I haven't heard from for a long time, which was kind of cool. And he wants to make plans to hang out like next week. So I was like, okay, like that's probably fine. So we'll see what happens with that, which was kind of nice. It's cool hearing from him because I haven't heard from him in a pretty long time. I don't think I've heard from him since like August or something like that. And when we talked in August, it was like just really briefly. So it wasn't like anything like really detailed or time consuming or anything like that. Yeah, but I've been working on getting my new job set up, which I'm really looking forward to, hoping that it starts very soon. because I'm kind of hoping it'll start like maybe next week. That would be amazing. Because I need to make some money. Need to make money, or else I'm going to be in trouble. Can't let that happen. So I'm kind of hoping my new job starts like hopefully next week, and then if it does, things should be pretty okay. Really excited about this new job too. I'm going to be. I got a job working with the community, which is really cool. I'm going to be basically, it's like a management position where I'm going to be assisting elderly and disabled people in doing their jobs in a variety of work positions. So my job is basically to, like, I'm not doing their job for them, obviously. My job is to, like, basically go to the workplace of, you know, a disabled person or, you know, an elderly person or whatever, and then basically kind of stand alongside them and kind of assist them with their job so that they're fully capable of doing that job. And I'm kind of excited about that. Like, I mean, I kind of like working with, you know, like, you know, assisting people. Like, I've had so many jobs in the past working with the elderly and disabled and things like that. And I've always, you know, really kind of enjoyed doing that kind of work. And so it's kind of nice that I managed to get into this position that is going to be just kind of like watching over elderly and disabled people and assisting them in their position and managing them and things like that. Because I think that I have a pretty good handle on that kind of stuff. So I was not looking forward to the idea of doing a retail job, so it was really cool that this kind of worked out, you know what I mean? Cinder says, sorry Hobbs, I know what it is like. I used to eat and curl up in a ball pain. Yeah, I actually, like, it was kind of so bad yesterday that I was dealing with, like, some crippling pain where I, like, had to, like, I had to kind of just stop everything. Because, like, sometimes, like, I have, like, IBS, but it's, like, very, like, it's very, like, violent IBS, where it's, like, in certain situations, it can be so bad that I can't, like, do anything all day. Like, it's, and I was having one of those days yesterday. Like, it's, I don't have those attacks frequently, but when they happen, it's literally, like, my whole day is just over, like, right there. Like, it's kind of like I've had people kind of explain to me, like, what it's like to have a migraine. And, because I don't actually have migraines or anything like that, but they tell me, like, you know, they have, like, severe migraines where it's, like, the moment that they have one of those migraines, their day is over. Like, they're literally just, like, this is the rest of my day now, is just being, you know, in this moment in pain. And, like, it's, like, crippling pain. And then for the rest of the day, even if that crippling pain goes away, you're just exhausted and mentally drained for, like, the rest of the day. And that was my day yesterday. Was, except it's, the pain is not a migraine up in my head, the pain is in my stomach. Where it's, like, very much crippling pain. In fact, actually, one thing that I kind of, like, learned over time is that, I have a very high pain tolerance because of the pain that I deal with from my IBS condition. Literally, the pain from my IBS condition is so extreme that pain that I experience in other fashions, not relating to my IBS, are like nothing to me, because the pain that I deal with from my IBS condition is so extreme that it's just not a problem dealing with any other kind of pain from anywhere else in any other kind of condition. So basically, yeah, I had an attack yesterday, and that basically my day was done. Like, because yesterday I was planning to go and get the package yesterday. I was planning to also do a stream yesterday, and when I had that attack in the morning, I was like, my day's over. Like, that's it. And I was like, even when the pain stopped, I was just mentally drained from it, that I couldn't do anything. And even today, I'm still kind of like bleh, you know? But I was like, even though I'm bleh, like, the thing is that I still have things to do. Like, I still wanted to go and get that package, and I still wanted to do a stream today to remind people that I do exist. I'm still going to stream. I'm still trying to stream. So I was like, I'm okay enough to be able to do a stream today, so, and pick up that package. So, but yesterday was just, the whole day was shot. So, and luckily, like I said, like, I'm not having these kinds of attacks every single day. It's not like I have them every day or even every week. I would say I probably have 1 to 2 of these attacks every month, and 2 is like the most usually. I have had really bad months where I'll have like multiple in a month, but that's like really unusual. Like, that's not a very normal thing. But the thing is that really sucks about it is that like, they can occur at like any time, you know. Like, I usually feel like that if they happen in the morning, that's lucky, because that means that I can end my day like very early in the morning, and that means I can, like, okay, if I have work, I can call work and call out sick or something like that. But the really bad attacks are like when I'm like in the middle of like a work day or something like that, and then I'm just like done. Like, I'm done for the day. And that's happened to me multiple times before. Like I said, luckily it's not a common thing, but, you know, it sucks. And that's also why I was trying to be hyper-focused on trying to find a job that I can work from home, which obviously, as you guys can see, didn't quite work out. I was trying to get involved with an online job, and I found out that it was really not going to work out at all. And it really sucks because I spent a lot of money and time trying to get it all set up. And I found out that it was just not going to work at all. It was too demanding in ways that I wasn't expecting it to be demanding. So it was unfortunate, and I had to, like, give it up. So that's when I found this other job, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. It should be fine. And I also made sure to kind of, like, explain to them, like, my condition and stuff like that. So they were very understanding and very flexible with me. So I'm pretty excited about that. Swerve Guy says, yeah, Hobbs, I feel you on that too. And I also feel you on the one as well, Cinder. You're making sure everyone follows the ADA. Peppermint tea. I mean, I guess peppermint tea. I don't know. Like, I mean, you keep telling me peppermint tea, and it's like, I don't really have peppermint tea in the house, and I don't make a habit out of drinking peppermint tea. I mean, you guys know that I'm a ritualistic coffee drinker, but, you know. Chris Scott says, yeah, I get migraines, and when they come, it's game over. Yeah, that's kind of how it is for me, but not in my head, but in my stomach. It's really, really lame. Bo Falcon also can concur that migraines ruin his day as well. Have to sleep to reset. Yeah, like I said, it's like a migraine, but it's like my stomach instead of my brain. So, but it can be pretty bad. Like I said, like it's usually it's like crippling pain for me, and I'm just like, all right, cool. Well, my day's over, so that's cool. Like, yeah, I had shit to do, but apparently my body decided differently today, so that's fine. But yeah, the only thing I could do is just kind of like, you know, handle it the best I can, and, you know, work with it and accept it for what it is, and that's life, man. That's life. I just wish that I could be, I don't know. I keep trying to, like, look into trying to find work online, and I just wish that I was kind of explaining to my father recently that my hardest part is being able to know how to, like, sell myself and my skills online. That is a very difficult thing for me to understand. I don't know where to look or how to go about it. You know what I mean? It's very frustrating. Hey, what's up, Spunky? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you, man. Glad to have you in here. I was just hanging out. I got some... Bo Falcon sent me some gifts. Sent me some Christmas gifts. I got a blanket and a coat for Surfer. which I know he's going to enjoy, and I'm really happy about that. Good way to get all my good sides. Send my dog gifts. I love my puppy, and I love it when he gets very nice things for him to enjoy. So, yeah, so Bo Falcon sent me a nice gift for Christmas. He says he has more stuff coming too, which I was not expecting. I was definitely expecting one package for sure. I was not expecting 2 packages. So that's pretty cool. And I'm just kind of hanging out. Today. I was just explaining to people that I had a rough day yesterday because I had an IBS attack, and it basically ended my day. But I was feeling a little bit better. I was still out of it, but I, went and did some things because I want to still know, I'm like, okay, I got to be productive today. I had to, sit around and do nothing yesterday, but I got to actually be productive today, so that's what I was trying to do today, a little bit. But, yeah. Other than that, I was just talking about, anime and manga and fantasy stuff, just like I always do, because I'm a big, giant nerd. There was, I just remembered there was a really interesting anime series that I started watching last night that really surprised me. And I think it's, in current release, I think. It's got, 10 episodes out right now. So I think it's in current release. And the weird thing is it's a Netflix series. It's a Netflix anime. And it surprised me in a variety of different ways that I was not expecting. So if you guys are curious, let me tell you guys about this anime I found out about. I don't have the name of it right in front of me. I have to look it up. Give me a second here. It's called Isekai Oji-san or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, I was right. I remembered it, actually. That's exactly what it's called. It's called Isekai Oji-san. So, have you guys heard of this? It's a Netflix series. It's a Netflix anime. And it's unusual, and I like it. I do have some issues with it, but the problem, I so far only have one problem with the entire series, and everything else about it I love. Have you guys heard of this? Isekai Oji-san? Okay. So Isekai Oji-san, which is a Netflix original series anime, it's an anime. Okay, so first of all, the first thing to say is that it's a reverse isekai. So, reverse isekai are not very normal. They're kind of unusual, I feel like. A reverse isekai is a anime where they take a character, usually a normal isekai is a person from Earth is transferred to a fantasy world, right? A reverse isekai is when a person from a fantasy world moves to Earth. It's the reverse. So, Isekai Oji-san is, I guess it's not a full, he doesn't originate from the fantasy world. So, the concept of it is Isekai Oji-san is this guy he is from the year 2000, Earth 2000. And he basically gets hit by a truck and goes into a coma. And so goes into a coma in the year 2000. While he's in a coma in the year 2000, he isekais into a fantasy world. Okay, stereotypical isekai, sure. However, that's not what the anime takes place in. The anime takes place in the year 2017 on Earth. And the idea is that this character who goes into a coma in the year 2000 wakes up from his coma 17 years later. So he's pulled out of his fantasy world and returns to Earth in the year 2017. And the story is essentially about this man reintegrating with Earth's society after being in a coma for 17 years, but also having been in a fantasy world for 17 years of his life and now returning to Earth. And it's not like, I mean, the first thing that you would think of is, oh, are they playing the idea that he's like a delusional lunatic, where like he never actually went to the fantasy world and he's just a crazy person who woke up from a coma? No. He actually did go to another fantasy world and like lived there for 17 years while his body on Earth was in a coma. And then when he returns to Earth, everything that he learned from that fantasy world has carried over to his knowledge when he returns to Earth mentally 17 years later and comes out of a coma. So, like, all of his knowledge, his ability to, like, understand different languages from this fantasy world, as well as all of his magical power and strength that he had gained in the fantasy world, he is capable of utilizing on Earth in, like, after coming out of this coma for 17 years. So it's so interesting. Where are you watching that anime? It's a Netflix series. So you can watch it on Netflix. It's called Isekai Oji-san. And it is so entertaining and unusual. It is a very strange and interesting anime series. And one of the most fascinating things about it is the corporate name dropping that it constantly does. I don't know, like, what kind of, like, there's a bunch of interesting things about the anime. There's a lot of very, hey, what's up, Zoo? Good to see you, girlfriend. How you doing? Glad to have you in here. There's a lot of very interesting things that this anime does. The only assumption that I have is that it must have an insanely high budget. Like, an insanely high budget. Isekai Oji-san is so unbelievably polished as an anime in some of the most unusual ways that I have ever seen an anime be polished in. So first of all, the art style of Isekai Oji-san is unbelievably complex. Like, it's kind of mind-blowing how much complexity the art style it has is. It's like, it's like, I don't know how to, like, explain it. It's overly detailed in a fascinating way because it uses like a hard line art style. So it's not all glossy and, like, it's not like the animes that are, like, super glossy and vibrant. It uses very hardline style detail. The colors are very flat, but the art style stands out in this unusual way that is so fascinating. Like, there's a lot of detail in the artwork, but not necessarily in the color definition. Like, it isn't glossy. It isn't, like, you know, it's very interesting. Like, and it's overly detailed in a way that is just very unusual for its kind. The other thing is it has very smooth animation. Like, the thing is that, like, what's really interesting when you really get involved with watching a lot of anime is you start to recognize that there's sort of like a balance, right? There's artwork and there's animation, right? And usually the scale tips from one side to the other. Like, the higher quality the artwork, the lesser quality the animation. The higher quality the animation, the lesser quality the artwork, right? And a lot of that, like, it's a reasonable understanding of why that happens, because the more detail and quality that the artwork has means that it's much more difficult to animate it. Like, if you're putting a lot of, like, work into the artwork as a still image, it makes it very difficult to replicate it over and over and over again when you're doing multiple sets of framework for an animation, right? The other side of that is that you can have really high quality animation that's very smooth and beautiful and looks amazing, but it's very common to have to sacrifice some of the quality of the artwork in order to present the animation in a more smooth fashion so that it looks cleaner and it flows nicer, right? So, because if there's less detail in the artwork, it means that it's easier to replicate that artwork with lesser detail into multiple frames of animation, right? Kind of get that? So, there are some exceptions to it, right? There are some exceptions to that concept where there are, I have definitely seen animes that are high quality artwork and high quality animation. And usually it's mind-blowing how much work they have to put into accomplishing something like that, right? So what's really interesting about Isekai Oji-san is the artwork is very well defined, it's very heavily detailed, there's a lot of work put into it, but it's simplistic in certain interesting areas. Like I say, they use a lot of flat colors. They're more of a hard line, style, which means the lines are thicker, harder, there's less shading, less coloration, things like that, right? So it's more of a hardline style, but it's still very detail oriented. But what's fascinating is that the anime has very smooth animation, which is very interesting also because the way that it handles it is animation in Isekai Oji-san is not a constant sense of movement and definition. It's not like there's constantly action happening all over and over and over again like most fantasy animes would have. A lot of the animation is very subtle. It's very slow. It's not heavily movement oriented. There are some heavy movement oriented action scenes, but they're very far and few between. So it allows them to kind of capitalize more on the artwork, but still focus on high quality animation because there's not a lot of it constantly. It's very interesting. I love that kind of stuff. It's very fascinating. But the thing is too is that it's just a good story. It's very comedy oriented, and the majority of the entire story is the main character is recalling his past and telling it to the other main characters of the story, who know for a fact that he is a magical person from another world and all that. I like how it's done. It's... My one complaint on it is there are times where it feels like that they don't need to be using the... there are times where it feels like that they don't need to use the framework of living in the real world in order to tell the story of the fantasy world. And there are times where it distracts from the point of the story, which I can actually relate to a book that I read a long time ago. If anybody's ever read the book Carrie by Stephen King, Carrie kind of does the same thing, where it's telling a story about a girl with psychic powers, right? That's what Carrie is. But the problem with Carrie as a book is that the entire story is told through the memory, or I should say not only the memory, but also a police report that is being investigated about an incident that is involved with the girl who is psychic. So the story of Carrie is told through the framework of a police report. And the problem with that is that it's distracting. You lose focus of the main point of the story because they constantly want to bring you back and remind you that it's a police report. And sometimes the opinions of the officers discussing the police report is not very insightful into what the story is trying to tell you about Carrie. It's a distraction. And I bring that up because Isekai Oji-san has that problem sometimes, where you're watching it and you're like, the story that he's telling about being in the fantasy world is really well done and well told. It's a great story. But when you're constantly trying to remind the viewer that it's being told through the framework of recalling a memory to other people that are outside of that fantasy world, who are only going to give you a couple of lines of dialogue that don't really impact the point of the story, it's distracting. And it's kind of like a turnoff. That is my only complaint about it. That's literally my only complaint about it. It's very interesting, though. I do like it. Let me catch up. I'm sorry. I do the monologue. You know me. You're not finding it on Netflix? I think it might be a regional variant. It's very possible, DLG, that you'll have to have, like, you might have to use, like, a VPN for Netflix, because I think it's a regional, like, it's a Japanese regional thing. So you might not be able to find it on Netflix. It might be a Japanese regional Netflix thing. So yeah, that might be a thing you might have to do. Ready for your 2-week break? Nice, you're on vacation? That sounds nice. The English translation is Uncle from Another World. Okay, there you go. Isekai Oji-san. Oh yeah, that might be it. That might be the answer you were looking for, DLG. Sorry, I should have clarified that a little bit. But it's very interesting. It's hilarious. It's a hilarious show, by the way. But one of the other things that really stood out to me that I think is really interesting, it's obvious that it has a very unbelievably high budget. I don't really know what that entails, but it's very interesting because not only do they have enough money to make this very interesting art style, which has a lot of quality put into it, work, but also when they do animate it, when it is properly animated, it's so smooth. It's so smooth. But on top of that, brand recognition. There is an insane amount of brand recognition in Isekai Oji-san. Now, I think I know how it happens. I believe that Isekai Oji-san might be a Sega-based production. Like Sega, like the, Sega, like Sonic and all of that. Because the majority of the references and brand recognition that Isekai Oji-san references are primarily Sega-oriented productions. So, like, for example, the major thing is that they make references to the Sega Saturn, like the Sega game consoles, Sega video games, like they talk about Sonic. Like, they literally talk about the brand, the character, Sonic. They talk about other Sega games, like a whole huge collection of actual, real Sega games. And then what they do is they also talk about anime in the anime itself. Like real life anime. They make multiple references to Evangelion. Multiple references to Evangelion. But I think that one of the things that they did when they mentioned it was, so the main character has an obsession with Sega. That's one of his main shticks, is he is obsessed with Sega in general as a company. And I think that that's the trick. Is I think that the reason, so Evangelion was funded by Sega back in the day. It was a Sega production. And they even explain that in the anime itself, in Isekai Oji-san. They explain it, that Evangelion was a Sega production. And I think that that's why they keep getting away with all the brand recognition. I think that Sega, as a production company, paid for this anime to exist. And they were like, you know what? Just go ahead and put all our stuff in there. You can use the Sega Saturn console. You can make references to all of our productions. You can use our game titles. You can make references to Sonic. You can even talk about the animes that we funded, like Evangelion. So, like, I'm pretty sure that every brand recognized reference that they make in Isekai Oji-san might be a Sega production. And it's fascinating because the show is also kind of like a parody of itself in a way. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting anime that I've very much enjoyed recently. I've only seen 10 episodes of it, but it's very entertaining. There are some episodes, like I said, like almost every episode is really good. The only time I ever am annoyed with it is when they do that thing I was talking about where the framework of the characters in the real world is almost a distraction to the main point of the story. That's like the one major flaw that I found with it. It's pretty good though. It's a lot of fun. It's very silly. But yeah. I was just thinking, I was like trying to think to myself, I was like, who's best girl? Who's best girl? I am particularly fond of the elf girl character, but they focus on her a lot, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But also, like, the girl character who is the kind of like romantic interest of like one of the other main characters in the real world. She's an interesting character, but it's because they went pretty deep with her as a character. Like, that's the thing that's also interesting, is the show gets pretty deep with all the characters in a particular sense. Because, I mean, a lot of it is just the majority, like, the show isn't necessarily about, it's not like a fantasy story where you have the hero trying to accomplish a main goal. Like, the story is character oriented, and it's kind of like trying to tell a bunch of like short stories about multiple different characters and how like the real world affects them, how the knowledge of the fantasy world affects them, how like magic affects them, how the main character's memories affect them. It's unusual, and I like it. I think it's very... It's definitely like... It's like... It's an isekai that managed to do something interesting with isekai instead of following the isekai stereotype. You know, it's not following... I mean, it's got like tropes in it, but the thing is that the show is a parody of itself. So, like, it does follow isekai tropes, but it does those tropes in order to poke fun at the fact that they are tropes. So it's very... It's like watching a less raunchy version of Konosuba. I think that's a pretty good comparison. Because Konosuba is like it's a isekai parody, and it's a parody of itself. But it's a little bit more sexualized and raunchy. Isekai Oji-san is kind of a little lighter than that. But I think it hits home all the points that it wants to make. Without... it doesn't need to be raunchy and nasty. You know what I mean? And I think that makes it a really interesting show. Like, I like how it handles that. I mean, there are some, like, sexual themes in it, but it's not... Like, I would say Konosuba is a lot more heavy-handed with the sexual themes than Isekai Oji-san. Like, I mean, the sexual themes in Isekai Oji-san are more romantic-oriented. It's more about romance than it is about, like, sexuality, I guess. But also a major part of it is it's poking fun at classic romantic tropes by showing you how ineffective it is. Like, it's... I don't know. I would recommend you watch it if you're curious about it. It's a very unusual and interesting series that I would recommend. It's not perfect, like I said. Like, I have like that one problem with it, but still a good series. A lot of fun. I mean, I would definitely say it's better than a lot of other isekais that I've watched recently. Like, I was talking crap about that farmer isekai with the terrible dragon villain. Like, I had to like stop watching it after, what was it? I think I got like 4 episodes. Yeah. What happened was I watched 3 episodes. I remember. I watched the first 3 episodes of the farmer isekai. And I was like, God, this is terrible. I can't watch anymore. But then at the end of the 3rd episode, they had a twist. And I was like, ugh. No, now I want to watch episode 4. Like, you're going to throw a twist in there like that. Now I want to watch the 4th episode. So I watched the 4th episode of the farmer isekai. And I got halfway through and I'm like, I can't. Like, your twist is bullshit. I can't do this. And I turned it off and I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to do it anymore. I can't. This is awful. I can't do it anymore. It's got nothing good going on. It's just, it's like, ooh, it's wacky and kooky because the main character, he doesn't want to be a hero. He wants to be a farmer. Isn't that wacky and kooky and interesting? It's like, it's garbage, man. Like, I get what you're trying to do, but your story is garbage, man. Like, there's nothing interesting about him at all. These characters are garbage. Oh, and another thing about that anime that was really weird that I couldn't understand, okay? For some reason that I don't understand, I have no explanation for it at all, I hated the main girl character so much. But what was weird about it was, I mean, she played like the stereotypical, you know, fantasy girl character, right? Like, stereotypical isekai fantasy girl character love interest with nothing interesting about her personality whatsoever. She's just there to be an attractive girl character for the main hero to, you know, play off of, I suppose. Whatever. Nothing really distinguishing about her. Something about her character design bugged me so much, and I have no explanation for it. It was like something about her face and her body shape and her hair. I don't know why, but every time that she was ever on scene as a character, and you would look her in the face, like, I would look her in the face, and I would see, it was something about her face and her shape and her hair. And I hated it. And it was like when I would look at this character, it reminded me of something that I didn't like, but I can't remember what it was. I don't know, like, what it was like I was having, like, it was like something about her appearance as a character on screen reminded me of something that I couldn't remember, but I hated. Like, I don't know if it was like she reminded me of a character from another anime that I hated, or like what it was, but it was, I don't know, like, I would see her on scene and I would be like, I can't look at you for too long. It's something about you existing on the screen makes me angry, and it's something about her face and her hair. Like, I don't know why. I don't know, like, it felt like as if I was, like, coping with a trauma. Like, you know? Like, I was having, something about her face and her hair was like a recollection to a trauma that I had, that I had removed from my memory. And something about looking at her, it was like as if my brain was, like, trying to remember something that it didn't want to remember. And it made me so angry. It was so weird. It was so weird. I don't know if I can find a picture of this character. Because, like, her character, like, who she was as a character, it wasn't special. Like, it was, like I said, she was just a stereotypical isekai girl character whose sole purpose was to probably be the love interest of the main character. She wasn't interesting. She didn't do anything special. But something about her made me so angry. It was her face and her hair. Like, and I can't say it was just her face. It was literally, like, her hair. It was, like, the combination of her face and hair together triggered something in me that made me so angry, and I don't know, like, why. It was very weird. Let's see. Bo Valga says, but by episode, he gives up being a farmer temporarily and goes on a quick quest to be a hero. But that only lasts 5 episodes, and then back to farming. Probably. That would probably be it, Bo Falcon. I don't even remember the name of it. I'm gonna have to, like, try and look it up. Let's see. Let's see. It wasn't even an isekai. I'm pretty sure he's not even from another planet. It's just a fantasy story. Let's see. Fantasy anime about a farmer. Let's see. Let's see what I got. That's probably it. Farming life in another world. This is probably, yeah, this is probably it. Isekai Nonbiri Noka is probably what it's called. It was such garbage. It was so bad. Like, it was not a good anime. It was terrible. Let me see. There it is. Oh, that's weird. Maybe that's not it. Maybe it's something else? Huh. I'm thinking this might not actually be it. Original run. Oh, this is a different series. Okay, so that's the wrong one. That's a... Okay. That's not it, then. Maybe it's this one? No, that's the new one that's coming out. So apparently there's scheduled in 2023 for there to be another isekai anime called Farming Life in Another World. Alright, man. Because apparently people want isekai farming fantasy shows. Apparently that's a thing that people want. Maybe it's this one. Let's see what this is. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay, so it's actually called Farming Made Me Stronger. That's what it's called. Okay. Let me see. Usually I can find it under English names as well. Let's see if it gives it to me. There it is. Yeah, this piece of garbage. Yeah. Nomin, Conran, No Skill Baka, Agatara, Nausicaa, Suyoko, Nada. Alright, man. Alright, man. But yeah, okay. Let me see if I can get a picture of this girl character from this. Okay. Oh, wait, I was just looking at that. Hold on. Oh, God. Okay, hold on. Oh, you won't let me do the thing. Okay. I'm gonna try and find a picture of this character and then show you guys. Something about the way that she looks, though, makes me angry, and I don't have an explanation for it. If I could just find a wiki page for it and show you guys. Is there like a wiki page? Just go to images, maybe that'll be better. Yeah. Okay. Okay, here's like a proper a proper silhouette of this character. Oh god, it looks like garbage though. Oh wait, no, it's fine. Alright, hold on. Okay. There we go. Just writing a quick name. Okay. Let's see, a much better story would be about how much it sucks being a farmer in a fantasy world. That'd be pretty funny. That kind of makes me think of another anime that I actually really enjoyed, which I call Otome for short, because the full name is miserable to call it. Okay, it should be, yeah, there it is. All right. Okay, I'm gonna add an image in here. Let's see. I'm gonna show you guys this character, and oh, that's not what I want. Okay. God, it's been so long since I've done this. So I'll add a new one. Image. Okay. There we go. Oh wait, that's not the right one. Ignore that, guys. Hold on. Okay. It just like auto defaulted to an old image that I used a long time ago. That's why it showed that one. Wait a minute. How do I do this? God, it's been so long since I've done this. Okay, there we go. That's how I do it. Oh, that's right. It'll be up here. There we go. All right. Oh, you guys can't really see it there. How do I... Oh god, it messed up everything. Alright, whatever. Screw that. Let me see if I can... Weird. There we go. So this character right here... There, I fixed it. God, she looks fat because I put her really large in there. So, I don't know why this character, when I look at her, makes me angry, and I don't know why. I have no idea why this character makes me so angry. It's something about her face and her hair. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like, it reminds me of something that I've seen in the past, and I don't know, like, what it is. But whenever I was watching the show, and mind you, I only watched it for like 3.5 episodes before I had to quit, because it was just a bad anime. Every time she would show up on screen, I was just like, ugh. Like, it's not like she was like, it's not that I found her as a character annoying. It was literally something about the way that she looks that I can't stand. No idea why. Absolutely no idea why at all. It's so strange. But yeah, I don't know why I don't like the look of this character, but her face and her hair just bugs me for some reason. Like, I mean, her other features don't really stand out. Like, I don't feel like she stands out in any way as a character in the show at all. And I mean, already right off the bat, the show's not very good anyways. So, you know, there's nothing redeemingly interesting about this character at all. But, you want to be fed, huh, buddy? You hungry? I know it's late. This is your feeding time, huh, buddy? Yeah, I know. Alright. Alright, I'm gonna get this puppy fed real quick. You know what? Actually, it's been a few hours. I should probably call it, huh, guys? Yeah, I know. You're hungry, buddy. I know. Let's see. Oh, okay. I'm gonna get him fed, and then I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna end the stream, okay? He's very hungry, and he's very patient. He's been very patient. Okay, come here. Hungry? Where's your food? Where's your food, buddy? Oh, yeah. Oh, you were so excited. You're so excited. All right, let me get you. Oh, you need some water, too. You need more water. You've been thirsty today, huh, buddy? All right. There we go. Okay. Here's just some food, and then you'll be all settled. And I'll end my stream. They're listening to me chat with my puppy. I know you guys can hear me. Don't you lie to me. I know you guys can hear me. Alright. There you go, buddy. You're all set. You're all set, little dude. Normally I would end the stream first and then feed him, but he's been so patient because his feeding time was about half an hour ago and I was just not paying attention. But let me catch up on the chat log a little bit, and then I will probably end it. Let's see here. Oh, you're DLG. You're reading Redo. Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. The manga's good. Like I said, if you have a stomach for it, it's good. Like, I like it. What happened to my 126 episodes? I guess the numbers lock was on. I meant to say 126 for the jokes. Farmers watch the heroes go by on their quests and offer advice to have fight evils on their own. You know, I just recently, it's funny that you said that, Bo Falcon. I just recently rewatched Goblin Slayer, and first of all, I want to go ahead and say that I recently, after rewatching it, I kind of feel like that it's one of my all-time favorite animes. I think what's really interesting is that Goblin Slayer, like, I love the fact that while the story of Goblin Slayer is going on, there is actually a world-saving hero and a world-saving party involved with the hero. And I think it's very clever that in Goblin Slayer, they remind you that that exists. Because the thing that makes Goblin Slayer such an interesting story is that Goblin Slayer himself is like the main character of his own story, but he is not like saving the world. He's not, even though he's the main character of his story, he's not the most important character within the story. And I think that is a very interesting perspective that I feel like would be a lot more interesting if it was utilized more often in anime and manga, which is the idea that, you know, the world does not revolve around the main character. And that's like an important point in Goblin Slayer. Like, in the story of Goblin Slayer, the world does not revolve around him, and they remind you of that constantly. And I kind of like that, like when you said like the idea of like, oh, it'd be really interesting if there was like a story about a bunch of farmers who were, you know, background characters, but it focuses around them and they're like giving advice to the heroes and stuff like that. Like, sometimes stuff like that is actually really interesting, you know? It's good stuff. But yeah, I adore Goblin Slayer. Like, I gotta say, I was rewatching it, and that show gets me so emotional. Like, so emotional. That show makes me, like, so emotional when I watch it. Because, like, it's so, like, first of all, the entire show is really sad. It's a sad story. I mean, there's like, you know, it always ends up being, you know, good, you know, and you know, things work out. But man, like, the hardships that those characters go through, the like genuinely human interactions and reactions that they have amongst each other as well as with their environment, and like, you know, the idea, like, another thing that makes that show so interesting is a lot of it as well is about those characters recognizing and understanding their mortality as well. Like, especially the main character, Goblin Slayer. Like, a lot of the show is him, like, and I mean, they talk about it in multiple episodes, like, you know, recognizing his mortality, like, what happens if he dies? Like, you know, they talk about, like one of the best things is when one of the characters basically comes out and says, you know, one day he's just not going to come back. Like, they're like, one day he will leave and you'll never see him again. And that'll be it. And it's like the weight of that, like the way that they present it in that story, it's so heavy and it hits so hard. Like, the characters, you know, recognizing their mortality and having to realize, like, the world doesn't revolve around us. Like, we're not, you know, the center of focus. Like, we have mortality, you know, like, if Goblin Slayer goes out one day and never comes back, like, that's it, you know? And it's so heavy and realistic, and having to understand that level of mortality and realism it's really refreshing and interesting. Her proportions are off. Yeah, well, also the size of that image was probably kind of wonky as well, since I threw it in like that. That dress makes her hips look way too wide. Once again, I think it's her face and hair that really bugged me. I don't know why. Does she have a bump it in her hair? I have no idea. Yeah, Goblin Slayer has that kind of feel to it. Somebody has to take care of the low-level stuff. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, like, it's such a great anime, and I've always been kind of sad that people treated it so badly when it was first released, because people were really upset about the very heavy-handed adult themes that it has in it. It's a very brutal series. But I think that it tells an amazing story, and, like, probably one of the best stories in fantasy anime. Yeah, I know. I'll shut up, Zoo. I get it. You want me to? I get it. You don't want to look at me anymore. I get it, Zoo. No, I understand. You don't want to look at my face anymore, and you don't want to hear me say anything anymore. So I get it. But yeah, I'll get going. I got anime to watch. Like, forget it. I don't even want to hang out with you guys. I want to go watch anime. Screw you guys. I'm going home. Talking anime is what I draw that. They latched onto something problematic. Yeah, that's true, Scorp. I mean, the thing is that it's whenever you're trying to tell, like, a dark adult fantasy, like, if you're doing it right, you're going to have to come against things like that. You know, that's just how it is. And, like, I mean, the classic thing is always to tell people, like, dude, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Shut up. Let people who do want to watch it enjoy it. Go away. Like, you don't have to watch it. It's fine. Okay, well, I gotta get going, guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you guys don't mind that I just kind of did a live stream where I just talked about whatever. Like I said, my brain is still kind of funky after yesterday. I have not recorded any Skyrim stuff yet. I've been basically on a break from it because I've been so busy and dealing with things. But I will be doing some Skyrim stuff. I'll be recording it instead of streaming it. And I'll just turn it into a video series from now on so you guys can actually see what the hell's going on. So, other than that, guys, thanks so much for being here and hanging out with me. Really appreciate it. Thanks for just coming in and relaxing and being chill with me talking about anime for like 2.5 hours. But anyways, thank you guys so much. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the like button if you like this. Leave a comment down below if you're watching the VOD. And subscribe if you're brand new here. And I promise I'll be doing more Skyrim stuff, so more of that will come if you're just here for Skyrim, so it's all good. And ring the bell. Do that stuff. Do all that stuff. All right, I got it going. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Follow your dreams. Habanero Audi 5000, okay?